When using the built-in plot function, there are several different ways to display multiple signals or multiple arrays within the same figure window. First, just using the plot function, we can put in multiple arrays as the input variables to the function and have them overlaid on each other within the same axes. Similarly, we can use something called hold on with hold off, which will hold open the figure window and allow us to call the plot function multiple times and overlay that information again on the same axes. Then we have something called subplot. This will, in one single figure window, display multiple axes, and each axis can have its own array that we're going to plot. So let's take a look at how we can plot multiple arrays within the same figure window. Here I'm going to demonstrate many different ways of displaying multiple plots. I started this script in a previous video about customizing several attributes with the built-in plot function. We'll begin by looking at how we can display different plots in separate figure windows. First, we need a few more arrays to work with. So let's create an array T as the values 0, 1, and 2. We'll use this for our horizontal axis. We'll create an array Z, which has the values -3, 12, and 6. These are just arbitrary values. Then I'll call the plot function for T and Z. Let's run the script and see what happens. Currently, we have two function calls for plot, with the X and Y variables up here, and then afterwards, the T and the Z variables. We run the script, and we end up with just a single figure window. This is figure 1. And currently, it's displaying for us the information from the variables T and Z. We don't have a figure window for X and Y. This is because what's happened is the second function call of plot is overriding the first one in this figure window. If we'd like to display different figure windows, we actually need to explicitly tell Matlab to open a different figure window. So the way that this works is, before we call this second function, we're going to put in the command figure. You can put a semicolon on the end of it. What this means is, we'll run the script, and the first time we call the plot function, that will automatically open up figure 1. Then we'll continue on in our script. And when we get to here at figure 2, Matlab is going to open up a second figure window. It's blank until we call this plot function T and Z. That will then fill the second figure window. So we can call this one. And now we end up with two separate figures, figure 2 and also figure 1. So figure 1, the first one, displays X and Y and also the other attributes that we had customized. And then over here in figure 2, we have T and Z. We can be even more explicit about this and tell Matlab specifically, even for this first plot, that we'd like to go in figure 1 and put this plot in figure 1, come down here and do figure 2. This is a great way, especially if you have more than one or two, maybe you have 3, 5, a dozen different plots in your script. You're going to be very specific about where they're going to be displayed. So here, we've got figure 1 and figure 2, right? In fact, if I wanted to, I could even switch them. I could say figure 2, I could say this one is figure 1, and now they're reversed. So you have control over where you want to place these plots in the separate figure windows. Let's move on and talk about how we can display multiple plots within the same figure window. So here I'm going to get rid of this code here of figure 1 and figure 2. And then what we're going to do is actually consolidate and use in a single function call for plot, we're going to use both X and Y. So here what I'll do is actually comment out several of these lines and come down here where we have T and Z. So currently, when we have the first input variable, that's going to be for the horizontal axis, and the second input variable is for the vertical axis. If we put in here additional input variables, like the third and the fourth, The way that this works is the third is a second line that gets drawn for, this is the horizontal and vertical axes together. So let's run this script and look at the result. So now in a single figure window, this is figure 1, we have the blue line, that's the first one, that corresponds with T and Z, and then we have X and Y, which is automatically in a different color. It's red. If we like to help keep track of them, this is where we can even put in the legend and say that this is signal 1. We'll put a comma, then we'll put in signal 2. So the way that this works is whatever the first string is, the first input variable to the legend, lines up with the first line in our plot function. Then the second string lines up with the second pair of arrays on the script. And now we can specifically distinguish between the two functions that have been drawn by using the legend. So that's how we can display two plots on the same figure window. Let's look at a different approach to accomplish the same thing. So right now we have two pairs that we're using in the same plot function. If we'd like to call multiple instances of this plot function, I'll show you a different way to accomplish a similar thing. So here let's go back to just having T and Z. Now what we're going to do is use some more built-in functions. The first one I'll show you is called hold on. And then we're going to use one and that pairs with it called hold off. The way that you can think about it is when you first plot, this is going to pull up a figure window and we're going to hold that one on and then overlay on top of it additional times we call the plot function. So now we can go in and say plot X and Y. Run the script. Now they're both being displayed again here in the same figure window. And additionally, if we even wanted to, we could do is plot, these things separately. If you have multiple instances of plot that you'd like to call, you just have to put them between hold on and hold off. So now we have three different lines. The blue one is for T and Z. Then we have plotting X, which is in red, and we have plotting Y, which is in yellow. So now we're able to layer multiple plots on the same figure window. Let's look at one last different way of doing a similar kind of thing, where we use a single figure window, but we want to display multiple lines. This is going to be called subplot. This allows us to actually have multiple axes on the same figure window. Currently, the way that it's worked is we have one figure window and one two-dimensional axis. But when we use a subplot, we'll be able to use one figure window and then put in a different number, however many we would like, of axes. So here's what we'll do. We'll go back, erase some of this code. How it works is you need to put in this command first for subplot. The way that it works is you're going to put in first the dimensions that you'd like to use and then also the place of it. So the first two variables that you're seeing on here, M and N, are the dimensions that you're going to use. So how about 2 by 1? And then the P stands for the place, which one you'd want to put it in. So we'll use this plot here in the first position. So T and Z will go in the first position. Then we'll come down here and use subplot. Again, it's going to be the same dimensions, 2 and 1. And then we'll put in here, we want to plot this one in the second place. So we'll plot X and Y. We can run the script and look at the result. So now, the way that this works is we have 2 rows and 1 column worth of axes. The first one here at the top comes from, this is position 1, T and Z, and then the second one down on the bottom is position X and Y. If we wanted to, and we could do the opposite, we could have 1 row and 2 columns. We'd still do position 1 and position 2. And look at the result. Now we have the axes arranged like this. If we had more lines, more function that we wanted to draw, we could increase the number of axes, put them in an arrangement where we have a 2 by 2 or even more than that. So here I've displayed many different ways of how you can plot multiple lines or multiple functions. We looked at using separate figure windows and then also a single figure window where we use the same variables in a single plot function, or how we could use hold on and hold off with multiple plot function calls. And finally, how we could use the subplot function.